Taeyong's fingers flew across the keyboard at 3 in the morning. The glow from his computer screen was the only light in his small Seoul apartment. He had been coding for 6 hours straight, trying to fix a bug in his company's new app, but his mind kept drifting. He refreshed his YouTube notifications for the 10th time that hour, hoping to see a new comment from her. From Naledi. It had started 3 months ago with a simple comment on his video about Korean study methods. This is exactly what I needed. I have medical exams in 2 weeks and I'm so stressed. Your tips are gold. Thank you from South Africa. Her profile picture showed a bright smile and kind eyes. Taeyong had received thousands of comments before, but something about hers made him stop and respond. Good luck with your exams. Medicine is tough but you seem determined. What year are you in? He had typed back. That one response changed everything. Now 3 months later, they talked every single day. Video calls at odd hours because of the 7-hour time difference. Voice messages when they were too busy to type. Shared playlists of K-pop songs and South African amapiano music. Taeyong had learned more about South Africa in 3 months than he had in his entire life. And Naledi, she made him laugh in ways his gaming friends never could. His phone buzzed. A message from her. Still awake? You promised you'd sleep early tonight. Taeyong smiled and quickly video called her. Her face appeared on his screen, lit by the afternoon sun in Pretoria. She was at her desk as always, books stacked around her, wearing a yellow hoodie that made her dark skin glow. I know, he said in English, still heavily accented despite their months of practice. But the bug, it's driving me crazy. You work too hard, Taeyong, Naledi said, mixing Korean and English the way they always did now. She had picked up Korean phrases surprisingly fast. Take a break. Talk to me. Tell me something interesting. You first, he countered, settling back in his chair. How was the clinic today? Naledi's face lit up. She loved talking about her medical volunteer work. We had this little boy, maybe 5 years old, who was so brave. He needed stitches but he didn't cry once. He reminded me why I'm doing all this studying. Why I want to be a doctor. Taeyong watched her animated expressions, the way her hands moved as she talked, the passion in her voice. His friend Minjae had asked him last week if he was in love. Taeyong had laughed it off then, but now, watching Naledi through the screen, he knew the answer. He was falling and falling hard. What? Naledi asked, noticing his stare. Why are you looking at me like that? Nothing, Taeyong said quickly, feeling his ears turn red. I'm happy we met. Even if it's just through a screen. Naledi's smile softened. Me too. You know, my friends think I'm crazy. They say how can you like someone you've never met in person? Someone who lives 10,000 kilometers away. But they don't understand. You get me, Taeyong. You really see me. If only she knew how much he wanted to really see her. Not just through a camera, but in person. To hear her laugh without the delay of internet connection. To maybe, just maybe, hold her hand. Naledi, he started, his heart pounding. I've been thinking. Oh no, I have to go. Naledi interrupted, glancing at something off-screen. My study group is here. Talk later? Promise me you'll sleep. I promise, he lied. And she laughed because she knew he was lying. The screen went dark. Taeyong sat in the silence of his apartment. That familiar ache settling in his chest. The ache that came every time they said goodbye. The ache that was becoming harder to ignore. His phone buzzed again. This time it was his mother calling. He considered not answering, but his mother had a sixth sense about these things. Yama, he answered. Taeyong, are you eating well? You sound tired. I've fine, Mom. Your aunt wants to introduce you to her friend's daughter. She's a nice Korean girl, works at a bank, very pretty. Mom, I'm not interested. There was a pause. Is this about that foreign girl you keep talking to? Taeyong, be realistic. How can that work? Different countries, different cultures. And what will people say? Before you continue, if you're enjoying this story, please hit the subscribe button and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Your support means everything. Taeyong felt anger rise in his chest. What people, Mom? Why do we always care what people say? Because that's how life is. I'm your mother. I want what's best for you. Maybe what's best for me is choosing my own happiness, Taeyong said quietly. After he hung up, he opened his laptop again. But instead of returning to his code, he opened a new browser tab and searched for flights to Johannesburg. His savings weren't much, but maybe, just maybe, it would be enough. He had to meet her. He had to know if what he felt through the screen was real. Because if it was, if she felt even half of what he felt, then no distance was too far. No obstacle too big. His phone lit up with a text from Naledi. Stop looking at flight prices. I can see you're online on that travel site we both use. Focus on your work. Smiling face with smiling eyes. Taeyong laughed out loud. How did she always know? He typed back. How about you focus on your studies and let me dream a little? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, her message came through. What if? What if your dreams came true? What then? Taeyong's heart skipped. Then I'd be the happiest man alive. 2 months passed like a beautiful dream mixed with torture. Taeyong and Naledi grew closer with each conversation, but the distance between them felt like an ocean that kept getting wider. Every night, Taeyong would rush home from work, skip dinner with his friends, and wait for her call. Every afternoon, Naledi would find a quiet corner in the hospital library, prop up her phone, and lose herself in conversation with him. You're smiling at your phone again, Thandai, Naledi's best friend, teased one day as they sat in the campus cafeteria. Let me guess, Korean Romeo? Naledi felt her cheeks warm. Stop it, Thandi. I'm serious, babe. When are you going to tell him? Thandai's voice dropped lower, more serious. Naledi's smile faded. She knew exactly what Thandai meant. The secret. The truth she had been hiding for 3 months. Every video call was carefully planned. She always positioned her phone on her desk, showing only her upper body. She always had an excuse when Taeyong asked why she never showed him her room, or took him on virtual tours like he did. I can't, Naledi whispered, her eyes burning with tears she refused to let fall. What if he leaves? What if he looks at me differently? Naledi, if he really loves you, it won't matter. That's easy for you to say. You don't know how people look at me. How they change when they see the wheelchair. I'm not just Naledi to them anymore. I become the girl in the wheelchair. The disabled girl. The one they pity. Thandai reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Taeyong doesn't seem like that kind of person. I know, Naledi said, wiping her eyes quickly. That's what makes it worse. He's so good, Thandi. He's kind and funny, and he listens when I talk about my dreams. He doesn't treat me like I'm fragile. But that's because he doesn't know. Once he knows, her phone buzzed. A message from Taeyong. Can't wait to talk tonight. I have big news. Naledi's heart jumped. Big news? What could it be? That night, when Taeyong's face appeared on her screen, he was practically glowing. He was in his apartment, but something was different. There were boxes behind him. Are you moving? Naledi asked. Not exactly, Taeyong said. His smile so wide it made her smile too. Naledi, remember I told you about the big tech conference my company sponsors every year? Yes, the one in Singapore? They changed the location, Taeyong said, and his eyes were dancing with excitement. Guess where? Naledi's heart stopped. No. Yes. Johannesburg. The conference is in Johannesburg in 3 weeks. My boss is sending me to represent our company. I'm coming to South Africa, Naledi. I'm coming to see you. The room started spinning. Naledi gripped the edge of her desk, trying to breathe. This couldn't be happening. Not now. Not when she hadn't told him. Naledi? Are you okay? You look pale. Are you sick? I'm fine, she managed to say, but her voice was shaking. I'm just surprised. That's amazing news, Taeyong. Amazing? It's the best news ever. We can finally meet. I can finally see you in person, hold your hand, maybe take you to dinner if you want. I've been dreaming about this for so long. Naledi wanted to cry. She wanted to scream. She wanted to tell him everything right then. But the words stuck in her throat like stones. I can't wait, she lied, and hated herself for lying. After they hung up, Naledi sat in the dark of her room, her wheelchair positioned beside her bed where it always was. The car accident had happened 5 years ago, in her first year of university. A drunk driver, a rainy night, and in seconds, her life had changed forever. The doctors said she was lucky to be alive. Lucky. That word had haunted her for years. She had learned to adapt. She had finished her degree, gotten into medical school, volunteered at clinics. She had built a life she was proud of. But dating? Love? Those felt like luxuries meant for other people. People who could walk into a restaurant without planning the route. People who didn't need to check if buildings had ramps. People who didn't see pity in strangers' eyes. And then Taeyong had appeared in her life like sunshine breaking through clouds. He saw her intelligence, her humor, her dreams. He didn't see limitations because she had made sure he couldn't see them. But in 3 weeks, there would be nowhere to hide. Her phone rang. It was her mother. Mama, nale diansoed. I can hear it in your voice. What's wrong, my baby? And just like that, Naledi broke down. Between sobs, she told her mother everything. About Taeyong, about the lies, about the upcoming visit, about the fear that was eating her alive. The 3 weeks passed in a blur of panic for Naledi and excitement for Taeyong. Every day, Naledi told herself she would tell him the truth. Every day she chickened out. She reasoned that it was better to tell him in person, where she could see his face, where she could explain properly. But deep down, she knew she was just scared. Taeyong, on the other hand, was like a child before Christmas. He bought new clothes. He practiced his English pronunciation for hours. He even learned a few basic Setswana phrases from YouTube videos. Dumala for hello. Kuago rata for I love you. He practiced that one the most. You're going to scare her away if you show up this excited. Minjae teased him at work. Try to play it cool. I don't want to play it cool, Taeyong said, grinning. I've been cool for 5 months through a screen. Now I get to be real. The day before his flight, Taeyong video called Naledi. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. Are you okay? He asked immediately. Have you been sleeping? Just nervous, Naledi said, which wasn't a lie. Exams are coming up. Don't worry about the exams now. Tomorrow, when I land, let's just have fun. Forget about studying, forget about work. Just you and me, finally together. Naledi's stomach twisted into knots. Taeyong, I need to tell you something. What is it? His face grew concerned. This was it. This was the moment. Naledi opened her mouth, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she heard herself say, I'm just really happy you're coming. That's all. She hated herself for being such a coward. That night, Naledi's mother came to her apartment. She found her daughter sitting by the window, staring out at the Pretoria skyline, tears streaming down her face. The 3 weeks passed in a blur of panic for Naledi and excitement for Taeyong. Every day, Naledi told herself she would tell him the truth. Every day she chickened out. She reasoned that it was better to tell him in person, where she could see his face, where she could explain properly. But deep down, she knew she was just scared. Taeyong, on the other hand, was like a child before Christmas. He bought new clothes. He practiced his English pronunciation for hours. He even learned a few basic Setswana phrases from YouTube videos. Dumala for hello. Kuago rata for I love you. He practiced that one the most. You're going to scare her away if you show up this excited. Minjae teased him at work. Try to play it cool. I don't want to play it cool, Taeyong said, grinning. I've been cool for 5 months through a screen. Now I get to be real. The day before his flight, Taeyong video called Naledi. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. Are you okay? He asked immediately. Have you been sleeping? Just nervous, Naledi said, which wasn't a lie. Exams are coming up. Don't worry about the exams now. Tomorrow, when I land, let's just have fun. Forget about studying, forget about work. Just you and me, finally together. Naledi's stomach twisted into knots. Taeyong, I need to tell you something. What is it? His face grew concerned. This was it. This was the moment. Naledi opened her mouth, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she heard herself say, I'm just really happy you're coming. That's all. She hated herself for being such a coward. That night, Naledi's mother came to her apartment. She found her daughter sitting by the window, staring out at the Pretoria skyline, tears streaming down her face. "Mama, I can't do this," Naledi sobbed. "I should cancel. I should tell him I'm sick. I should." "You should be brave," her mother interrupted firmly. She knelt beside Naledi's wheelchair and took her daughter's face in her hands. "Listen to me. You survived that accident when the doctors said you might not make it. You learned to live again when everything felt impossible. You got into medical school when people said it would be too hard. You are the bravest person I know. Don't let fear steal your happiness now." "But what if he looks at me with pity? What if everything changes? Then you'll know he wasn't the right one." "But Naledi, my child, what if everything changes for the better? What if he loves you even more? What if his love is big enough to hold all of you? Not just the parts you've shown him?" Naledi wanted to believe her mother. She wanted to believe that love could be that big, that real, that unconditional. But years of disappointed looks and awkward conversations had taught her to protect her heart. The next morning, Taeyong's plane touched down at Tambo International Airport. His hands were shaking as he collected his luggage. He had told Naledi not to come to the airport, that he would take a taxi to his hotel and rest first. But the truth was, he wanted to prepare himself. He wanted to shower, change into nice clothes, maybe even buy flowers. He wanted their first meeting to be perfect. At her apartment, Naledi was having a breakdown. She had changed outfits 5 times. Thandime was there, trying to calm her down. "What if he runs away?" Naledi asked, trying on her 6th outfit, a blue dress that she loved. "Then I'll personally fly to Korea and beat him up," Thandime said. "But he won't. Trust me." "How do you know?" "Because I've watched you video call him. I've seen the way he looks at you through that screen. That man is in love, Naledi. Real love. The kind that doesn't break easily." 2 hours later, Naledi's phone rang. It was Taeyong. "I'm at the hotel," he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "I'm ready whenever you are. Where should we meet?" They agreed on a cafe near the university, a place Naledi knew well. A place with ramps and accessible entrances. A place where she had planned this moment 100 times in her mind. Naledi arrived first. She positioned her wheelchair at a table near the window where he could see her immediately when he walked in. Her heart was beating so fast she thought it might explode. Thandai had wanted to come for moral support, but Naledi had refused. This was something she had to do alone. Through the window, she saw a taxi pull up. A tall figure stepped out. Even from a distance, she recognized him. Taeyong. Herr Taeyong. He was wearing a blue shirt and black pants, his dark hair styled neatly. He looked around, nervous and excited, searching for the entrance. This was it. The moment of truth. Naledi's hands gripped the armrests of her wheelchair. Every instinct screamed at her to leave, to roll away before he saw her. But she forced herself to stay. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. "Be brave." Taeyong pushed open the cafe door. The bell chimed. His eyes scanned the room, and then they found her. For a moment, time stopped. We're at the halfway point of this beautiful story. If you're emotionally invested, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss stories like this. Comment below what you think will happen next. Naledi watched his face carefully. She saw the recognition first, the joy that lit up his eyes. Then she saw the moment he noticed. The moment his gaze traveled down, and he saw the wheelchair. His smile faltered. His steps slowed. His expression shifted from joy to confusion to something Naledi couldn't quite read. She wanted to disappear. She wanted the ground to swallow her whole. But she forced herself to smile. Even though tears were already forming in her eyes. "Hi," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Taeyong stood frozen at the entrance. Other customers were starting to stare. The barista asked if he wanted to order. But Taeyong didn't move. He just stared at Naledi, his mouth slightly open, his eyes wide. And then slowly, Naledi saw something she hadn't expected. She saw tears beginning to form in his eyes too. "Naledi," he finally said, his voice cracking. Taeyong walked toward her table slowly. And with each step, Naledi's heart broke a little more. She could see it in his eyes. The shock. The confusion. Everything was ruined. She had been right to be afraid. "I'm sorry," Naledi blurted out before he could say anything. Tears were streaming down her face now, and she didn't care who saw. I'm so sorry I didn't tell you. I wanted to so many times, but I was scared. I was so scared you would leave, and I couldn't bear that. I know I lied. I know this changes everything. If you want to go, I understand. I'm sorry for wasting your time, and making you come all this way for nothing. Naledi, stop, Taeyong said quietly. He pulled out the chair across from her and sat down, but he didn't look at her. He was staring at his hands, which were trembling. The silence stretched between them like a canyon. Naledi wanted to say more, to explain, to beg him to understand, but the words were stuck in her throat. All she could do was wait for him to speak, to tell her what she already knew, that this was over before it really began. When Taeyong finally looked up, his eyes were red and wet with tears. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, his voice breaking. Why didn't you trust me? Because everyone changes, Naledi said through her sobs. Everyone looks at me differently once they know. I become the disabled girl. The one people feel sorry for. The one who needs help. I didn't want you to see me that way. I wanted you to see me the way you did through the screen. Just as Naledi. Just as me. But you are just you, Taeyong said, his voice rising with emotion. With or without the wheelchair, you're still you. The same person who makes me laugh, who challenges me, who dreams of saving lives. Why would that change? Because it always does, Naledi said bitterly. You don't understand. You don't know what it's like. You're right. I don't understand, Taeyong said, and fresh tears rolled down his cheeks. I don't understand why you thought I was so shallow. I don't understand why you thought my love was so weak that something like this would break it. Naledi looked up at him, confused. Your love? Yes, my love. Taeyong stood up abruptly, startling the people at nearby tables. I love you, Naledi. I flew 10,000 kilometers because I love you. I learned your language because I love you. I think about you every morning when I wake up and every night before I sleep because I love you. And you thought a wheelchair would change that. The cafe had gone quiet. Everyone was watching them now, but neither of them cared. I'm not crying because you're in a wheelchair, Taeyong continued, his voice thick with emotion. I'm crying because you've been carrying this fear alone for months. I'm crying because you were so scared that you couldn't tell me. I'm crying because you thought I wouldn't love all of you. That breaks my heart, Naledi. That really breaks my heart. Naledi couldn't speak. She could only stare at him through her tears as he came around the table and knelt beside her wheelchair. He took her hands in his, and they were warm and real and everything she had dreamed of. I'm angry that you didn't trust me, Taeyong said softly, looking directly into her eyes. But I understand why. And I'm sorry if I ever made you feel like you had to be perfect for me to love you. I don't want perfect. I just want you. All of you. Everything you are. Taeyong, Naledi whispered, her heart feeling like it might burst. Can I hug you? He asked. Is that okay? Naledi nodded, unable to form words. Taeyong wrapped his arms around her, and she buried her face in his shoulder. They held each other and cried. Months of longing and fear and hope pouring out in that embrace. The other people in the cafe started clapping softly, and someone even cheered, but Naledi and Taeyong were lost in their own world. When they finally pulled apart, Taeyong was smiling through his tears. So can we start over? Imtalan. I'm a software developer from Seoul who is completely in love with you. Naledi laughed, wiping her eyes. Imnaladi. I'm a medical student from Pretoria who uses a wheelchair, and is also completely in love with you. Nice to meet you, Taeyong said, grinning. You're even more beautiful in person than on video. The next 2 weeks were like a dream. Taeyong attended his conference during the days, but every evening and weekend belonged to them. Naledi showed him her Pretoria, her South Africa. They ate bunny chow and boerewors. They visited the Voortrekker monument. They laughed with her friends and her family. Taeyong met Naledi's mother, who hugged him and whispered, "Thank you for seeing my daughter's heart." He met Thandile, who threatened him with serious consequences if he ever hurt her best friend. He even went with Naledi to her volunteer clinic, and watched in awe as she examined patients and offered comfort with such natural grace. "You're going to be an amazing doctor," he told her one evening as they watched the sunset from her apartment balcony. "You really think so?" Naledi asked. "I know so," You have the biggest heart of anyone I've ever met. On his last night in South Africa, Taeyong took Naledi to a fancy restaurant overlooking the city. After dinner, he held her hand across the table and said, I have to go back to Seoul tomorrow, but I don't want this to end. I want to make this work. I want us to work. So do I, Naledi said. But how? The distance, the visas, everything is so complicated. I know, but I've been thinking. My company is expanding. They're looking for people to help set up a new office. What if I applied to transfer here? To South Africa? Naledi's eyes widened. You would do that? Leave Korea? Leave your family? For you? Yes. 1,000 times yes. But only if that's what you want too. It's what I want more than anything, Naledi said, squeezing his hand. 6 months later, after paperwork and planning and many tearful video calls, Taeyong returned to South Africa. This time not as a visitor, but to stay. A year after that, on a beautiful summer day, they got married in a ceremony that blended Korean and South African traditions. Naledi wore a traditional white wedding dress for the ceremony and changed into a hanbok for the reception. Taeyong's parents flew in from Korea, and though his mother had been worried at first, she cried happy tears when she saw how her son and his bride looked at each other. They built a life together in Johannesburg. Taeyong worked on developing accessibility apps, using his skills to make the world easier for people like Naledi. Naledi finished medical school at the top of her class and began her residency, specializing in rehabilitation medicine. She wanted to help people who had been through what she had been through, to show them that life after tragedy could still be beautiful. Their social media channels, where they shared their journey, inspired millions. Messages poured in from people around the world. People in wheelchairs who said Naledi gave them hope. People in long-distance relationships who said Taeyong and Naledi proved love could overcome anything. People from different cultures who said their story showed that love has no borders. But for Taeyong and Naledi, the most important thing wasn't the followers or the fame. It was the quiet moments. The morning coffee shared before work. The evening walks, with Taeyong pushing Naledi's wheelchair through their favorite park. The laughter over burnt attempts at cooking Korean African fusion dishes. The tears shared during hard days. The dreams discussed late into the night. One evening, 2 years after their wedding, they sat together on their couch watching the news. A story came on about a young girl in a wheelchair who had won a science competition. That could be our daughter someday, Naledi said softly. Taeyong looked at her, surprised. You want children? With you? Yes. I want everything with you. Taeyong pulled her close and kissed her forehead. Remember that day in the cafe? When we first met? How could I forget? I was so scared, Taeyong admitted. Not because of the wheelchair, but because I was afraid I had built you up so much in my mind that the real you couldn't possibly match. But I was wrong. The real you was so much better than anything I had imagined. Even with all my baggage? Naledi asked. Your wheelchair isn't baggage. Your fears aren't baggage. They're just part of your story. And I love your whole story, Naledi. Every single chapter. Naledi smiled and rested her head on his shoulder. Outside their window, Johannesburg sparkled with lights. Somewhere in the world, someone was probably watching their latest video, maybe finding hope in their story. But here, in this moment, it was just the two of them. Two people from different worlds who had found each other through a screen and built a love strong enough to cross oceans. Kaagurata, tayang whispered in Setswana. Sarangi, Naledi replied in Korean. I love you. In any language, it meant the same thing. And for them, it meant forever. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel for more beautiful stories like this. Hit the like button and comment below telling us where you're watching from and what part of the story moved you the most. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that true love sees beyond everything. Thank you for watching until the end. Until next time, keep believing in love.